All right, so we are into solving equations part 2, the sequel. Now, in part 1, we looked at solving equations where the steps that we used were just the S and the I. All we had to do was separate and collect like terms and then get the variable by itself. Now we're going to look at using all 3 steps. And so I'm going to have to expand and simplify first, separate and collect my like terms, and then isolate my variable. All right, so in my first example here, A, solve for x, we have 2 times 3x minus 4 is equal to 22. As you can see, I have something in front of brackets, and so that's where I'm going to have to expand, which means I'm going to have to use the rainbow rule. So I'm going to take that 2, and I'm going to multiply my 3x, and I'm going to take that 2, and I'm going to multiply my negative 4. All right, so here we go. 2 times 3x, well, 2 times 3 is 6, and then there's an x. Then I have 2 times a negative 4, and so that's going to be negative 8. And that is equal to 22. So that's where I just did the E. I expanded out again using my rainbow rule. Now I get to the next one, S. I have to separate and collect like terms. Again, that means putting my x's to one side of the equation of the equal sign and putting my numbers on the other. So in this case, again, I always go with putting my x's on the x's or letters. As you can see in the homework, there's some j's and r's and u's and that kind of stuff. I typically will go with x, but again, I got an x term on the left here. I'm going to move that negative 8 over to the other side. All right, so now I have 6x equals, I have my 22 here. But again, this minus 8 is being brought over to the other side. And so again, when you change sides, change sign, anything, numbers or variables. So if it was a negative 8, it's now a positive 8. All right, I still have to, I've separated, but now I just have to collect my like terms. And so I have 6x is equal to 22 plus 8, which is 30. So there's my S is done now. I've separated and collected my like terms. Now the last thing is isolate the variable. I have to get the x by itself. I have this 6 right here that's attached to it. So the only way to isolate that variable is to divide by 6. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. And so those x's divide, or those 6's divide each other out. And so x is equal to 30 divided by 6, which actually I know is 5. And so I've isolated the variable. I've got x by itself, and I figured out its value. All right, I'm going to try another one like those. So I got B here, where I have negative 3 times 5x plus 1 equals negative 33. All right. So once again, I have to expand and simplify. So that means I'm going to have to use my rainbow rule and take negative 3 and multiply it by 5x. And also take negative 3 and times it by 1. All right, so let's see here. Negative 3 times 5x. Well, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then I have an x. All right, but I got to do everything in the brackets. So then I have my blue part. I have negative 3 times 1. That's negative 3. And again, that is going to equal negative 33. All right, so I just expanded. There's my E again. All right, now, next up, my next step is I got to do S. Again, separate the terms and collect them. All right, so I'm going to move this minus 3 over to the other side. And so on my left-hand side of my equation, I still have my minus 15x equals, let's see here, I have that minus 33 there. But again, this minus 3 is coming over, so when I write it on this side, it's going to be a plus 3. All right. Still not done because I've separated, but I haven't collected like terms yet because I haven't put my numbers together yet. So I still have this minus 15x. And then I've got minus 33 plus 3. So I've lost 33, but I get 3 back. Well, I am still down 30 or minus 30. So there's the S. It's done. Now the last step is to divide by my numerical coefficient here because that's going to isolate the variable where I'm dividing by my number in front of the x, which they call the coefficient. All right, so to divide it off, I'm going to have to divide by negative 15. And again, what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other here. There we go. All right, so those negative 15s divide each other out. And so let's see here. I take negative 30 and divide it by negative 15. Again, the signs are the same, so it's a positive answer. And in fact, that answer is a positive 2. There we go. So that's where we're using all 3 letters. All right, so of course, I can always step it up and try a couple of harder ones here. So here we go. All right, example 2. A. I have 4 times x minus 2 plus 3x is equal to 41. But again, you can see I've got a term here in front of my bracket, so I'm going to have to do my rainbow rule. First, that's the expanding part. All right, so let's see here. I got 4 times x, 4x. All right, and then 4 times a minus 2. Well, positive times a negative, I'm going to get a minus 8. All right, so there's the expanding. Notice I didn't do anything with the 4 and the 3x because the 3x is not in brackets. So it's just there. And it's equal to 41. All right, so there's the expanding done. There's our E. Now it's time to collect like terms and, well, separate them and then collect them. So again, I want all my x's here on the left side. So there's my x's. But I want my numbers on the right. So this minus 8 is going to have to go over to the other side. All right, now I have 4x plus a 3x. I can put those together right away. That's 7 x's equals. I got a 41, the number-wise over here on the right. The minus 8 is coming over to the other side, so it changes sign. It's going to be a plus 8. All right, so I've separated my terms. I've got my x's on one side, numbers on the other. I'm going to put my numbers together here because that's called collecting like terms, and 41 plus 8 is 49. All right, so there's my S. I've collected like terms, and now it's time to get the x by itself. So I got to get rid of that 7. It's attached, so I'm going to divide by 7. And again, what I do to one side, I do to the other. Those 7s divide each other out. And so I've got my x all by itself. I've isolated it. There's the I. And if I got 49 divided by 7, I believe, yeah, it is 7. 49 divided by 7 is 7. And there we go. All right, let's try one more of those guys. So again, over in B, I have negative 2 times 3x plus 5. Then this plus 4x over there equals minus 4. All right, so again, I'm going to do my rainbow rule. So I got negative 2 times 3x. That's negative 6, and then there's an x. And then I've got negative 2 times 5. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. There we go. So that's the rainbow rule done. I had this 4x. Again, I didn't do anything with it because it was not in brackets. And it equals plus 4x equals negative 4. All right, so I just expanded. There's my E done. Now it's time to separate the terms and then collect them. So getting the x's to one side, numbers on the other. And so let's see here. I'm going to have to move this minus 10. over to the other side. All right, let's see here. My x's, I got -6. Got to watch your signs here. Plus 4x. So I lose 6 x's, but I get 4 back. And I'm still down 2 x's. All right, I have a -4 on the right-hand side of your equation. And then there's -10's coming over. So if it's switching sides, it's going to switch signs. So that's a +10 there. All right, I can put my numbers together. And so if I have -4 plus 10, you lose 4, but you get 10 back. You're up 6. There we go. And so now, I've done my S. I've separated my X's and my numbers, and then I collected like terms. The last thing I got to do is get X by itself. I got that -2 attached, so I can divide it off. And what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. And let's see here. So those -2's divide each other out. So there I've isolated my X. And it is equal to, I got 6 divided by -2. Again, the signs are the opposite. So my answer is negative. And in fact, it is a -3. And there we go. So those questions all involved using E, S, and I.